Navah Hopkins is my guest on this episode of Suds Search. She's the director of paid media at Hennessey Digital. She's a regular on PPC Hero's list of the top 25 most influential experts. Her writing is really exceptional. After this video, check out her column at Search Engine Journal. She's also a dynamic and in-demand speaker who presents all over the world. For a short time, she's offering free office hours. There's a link in the intro to schedule a time to speak with her. A self-described PPC scythe, Navah loves nothing more than guiding people on a path to profit and victory. We talk about our dogs, beer, and PPC on this episode of Suds Search. Navah Hopkins, welcome to Suds Search. How you doing?
I am well. The audience doesn't realize this, but just before we started talking, you sent me 3 amazing beers. Insanely generous of you. So I'm more. I would have done this without it, but now I'm like, you have me for as long as you want.
Now you're pumped up. I like it. I'm gonna open my beer here. I've got a Pils called Pulaski Pils from a Chicago brewery here called Maplewood. It's one of my favorites. And so,
Fantastic.
What are you having to drink?
I'm going to do the Dave's Coffee Stout, which is special to me for many reasons. One, I love coffee. I've been drinking coffee since I was 5. It's probably the reason why I'm very energetic. But it also is named after my husband. My husband's name is Dave, and it's Rhode Island. It's where I live.
I try to get a bunch of Rhode Island
You were just
tonight.
on point.
We'll go. Well, cheers. We got to get cheers in. Thank you for coming, Clink, and this should be fun. So I have a lot of topics that I want to cover, so we'll see how fast we can get through them. One of the things that you write and speak a lot about is quality score. And
yes.
You've said it's a terrible KPI, but an effective health indicator. I may be paraphrasing that. What do you mean by that?
No, that's actually exactly my feelings on it. So quality score at its base metrics is your historical click-through rate, and what Google wants your click-through rate to be, which is a bit out of your control. Your keyword to add to landing page relevancy, and the landing page experience. So the reason why I think of that as a health indicator, not a KPI, is there are a number of elements that are beyond our control when we think about those individual pieces of quality score. But the other thing is that if you have a quality score of, say, 5, which is average, but your ROAS, or return on ad spend, is 400x, like that, I don't care that I have a quality score of 5. I care that I'm making money. So I like to look at quality score as this is where I begin my audit. This is where, if I need to make a decision and I've checked every other metric and it's just a tiebreaker between one keyword and another, sure. I'll take a look at quality score. The metric I prefer to use is impression share, because impression share will give me a better sense of the universe. So of all available impressions, how many am I getting? And of those impressions, how many of those are actually at the top of the page where the majority of the profit will happen? And how many are itty-bitty placements at the bottom or second page where the quality is just not going to be good? So I recognize that everyone wants to focus on quality score, because quality score is a reason Google will give you that your ad isn't showing, or that your keyword isn't triggering any auctions, or no one wants to be the failure, and 10 out of 10 seems like success, and
Right.
1 out of 10 seems like you're bombing really badly. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And I think if you sell your clients on quality score, you're basically setting yourself up to have to go to a vanity metric and to service them from a vanity metric standpoint, rather than I've actually helped your business.
Yeah, you had this hilarious April Fool's post. Quality score said things like you should pause your keywords that have a quality score of 7 or lower, even if they have conversions and stuff like that. It was like a bunch of what are some of the common misunderstandings about quality score?
So that actually is one, is that if your quality score drips too low, pause it, because you're hurting your account. I think part of that comes from people's fear that, because this is actually a true element of quality score, each keyword feeds into the quality of the ad group and equity of the ad group. Each ad group feeds into the equity of the campaign. Each campaign feeds into the equity of the account. So the fear that people have, and it's understandable that they have this fear, is that if I have a lower quality score, it's going to hurt the rest of my account. It will depreciate all the other great work that I'm doing. What that fails to recognize is that quality score is built up over time, and that you actually might have an artificially high quality score at the onset of a keyword or ad group, or a keyword or ad, because you've introduced it into a brand new, or not into a brand new, into an established account. So it's benefiting off of all those other signals. But as time goes on, it maybe goes down a little bit, but that keyword has secured you so many conversions. Like, why would you pause that keyword?
Why would you stop the golden goose? Yeah.
Right. So it's just, I think it's a combination of people wanting to understand the ad networks and kind of honor the ad networks. That's why I threw that little bit in there about dropping quality score into everyday conversation.
Right.
That was just me being like, in case you think any of this is serious, here's the part where it's like, all right, you should know that this is a joke.
Kind of like an A through F scale, and like,
exactly.
It's funny. Yeah.
But the main problem, though, I think, with quality score is that it's super easy to sell quality score. Salespeople love quality score because it wraps up in a bow everything really neatly. So if you're looking to pitch a client and you're like, well, your quality score is super low, first thing we want to attack is improving it. Very easy sales tactic, because you're scaring the client into signing with you, but then you have to service to that, and servicing to quality score, you just might end up focusing on the wrong thing. So another area where you could get in trouble is that you'd write bad ads so that your copy perfectly matches the keywords in your ad group, perfectly matches the landing page, and rather than having an engaging experience, you have robotic ads. And at that point, Google will write a better ad than you. So one thing I found actually really interesting, I had a client that was willing to share it with me. They let an automatic ad appear in their account and just run. And what was really fascinating is that the automatic ad, automatically generated ad within Google, performed better than the human one. And Google was predisposed to give that ad more impressions.
Interesting.
So like, if you're going to write a bad ad, the automatic ad might actually be fine. Now, if you're going to write good ads and you're going to take the time to really think about what creative makes sense per region, how do you pre-qualify your traffic with your creative, of course, a human being will write a better ad. So it's just, the people that focus on quality score, over focus on quality score, are old school PPC management, where you had to be robotic because that was just what you had to do. And we now live in a really beautiful world where close variants are a thing, and so those implied words are allowed, singular, plural, slight misspellings. You can get discounted clicks. I saw you had Steve Hammer. We actually taught a course on this for PubCon last year, and it's really fascinating that close variants caused old school folks to panic, but have actually made account management in today's world so much easier. So yeah, it's, you picked exactly the right topic for me, because the quality score is my favorite rant
I love it.
ever.
Well, there's a lot of ways I could go here. I think one of the things is there's this obsession with not wasting spend, and people, you mentioned close variants and changes to match type. I mean, is it fair to say that one of the most important, maybe the most important match type to consider right now is negative match, just to make sure you have negative matches on there, are more important than phrase or broad or any of the other ones?
These low balls, I love it. I'll put a promotional little plug in here. I just did as Ask the PPC article for SCJ, how to use negative keywords. So I'll send you a link if you want to include it in the post.
Please, yeah, I will.
But negative keywords and excluding the traffic you don't want is so important. Really important on this is that close variants do not impact negatives. They only impact active keywords. So with negative keywords, the tools that you used to use to identify all those different variants for the keywords that you wanted to go after, those tools actually still have value, but in generating your negative lists. I really preferred finding those single root terms, applying them on phrase match so that you can import over into Microsoft Ads if you so choose, and then just run lists if you're an agency at the shell level, if you're a brand owner at the account level, and then for campaign and ad group level negatives, there might be instances where you want the full phrase. That's going to be few and far between because you have more things to do in your life than sit there and adding every single negative that there could be.
Right.
Also, you're capped at 10,000 negatives per campaign, so you can't add every negative under the sun.
Yeah. Oh, that's very good information. I didn't know. So that's the cap is 10,000. Very good.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing you mentioned as it related to quality score was something I've heard you present on, which is like bad ads and good ads.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if, we could probably talk about this for a very long time, but some actionable insights to avoid writing. I think it would be more interesting to start with the bad ads. What are some things to avoid so you're not writing bad ads?
So please spell correctly. That's
good
thing
tip.
thing number one. Like instead of I found an ad where I was confident it was a computer generated ad because it was so robotic, but it had a typo in the description. Like, spell check before you put it in. But in terms of bad ads, I don't like ads that are just brand name and call. I think it's a waste of real estate to include the brand name unless it's specifically a branded campaign. My favorite format for ad copy is question, inviting statement, headline 2, the call to action, whatever you want that call to action to be. And then that third line, because it doesn't always show, but the data has proven out that if you include all 3 headlines and both descriptions, you'll get better click-through rate. Have a third interesting idea in the headline 3, but you shouldn't care that it serves. One of the reasons why responsive search ads get such a bad rap is that people don't pin the ideas that they need to be in headline 2. And even on expanded text ads, when that migration happened, people are putting important ideas like call in headline 3, but then they have some random statement or something that could be a call out or part of the description in headline 2. So that's something I think makes an ad bad, is that you've misplaced your most valuable assets. It's kind of like in a company putting someone who's really brilliant at strategy stuffing envelopes for 8 hours. Like that, you're wasting a brilliant resource in the wrong spot.
I completely get it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
What about you? What are some of the bits of ads that you've seen that you're like, oh my God, fire this person?
I think maybe this is just because you showed something that was very similar, but I've seen it where you'll have basically the exact same message twice. You'll use both headlines,
so
where it's like, Chicagoland dentistry in Chicagoland. It's the next headline, and you're like, I don't know. Like you could get a little bit more creative than that. I think RSAs are really tough. I think RSAs, it's really hard to tell a story, and I like expanded text ads better. Maybe I need to get more knowledgeable about RSAs, but that's my.
So I'm going to give a shout out that I often give, and he'll laugh at me for giving it yet again, because we no longer work together at the same company, but I need to. Mark Irvin over at WordStream. He has a great talk about RSAs, and specifically the idea is that you use, and this is his talk, his idea, that you use your wild and crazy ideas in RSAs. And your proven concepts in expanded text ads. And the reason why I've kind of adopted that into how I manage and how I will parlay RSAs in, I know Google needs me to put that there. Like Google has flat out said, we recommend 1 RSA to expanded text ads. So in playing in Google's game, I'm going to include an RSA. I'd like to at least include a good one.
Yeah.
That's where I test really wild and crazy ideas, but I always pin headline 2. And I make sure that my headline 2 are only calls to actions, and that's it. And those are the only things that can appear in headline 2. Whereas the others, let them be headline 1, and I pin those in headline 1. And so you can have like multiple things pinned to headline 1, multiple things pinned to headline 2, so you control those variables.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about good and bad there, but what are some things that you've seen from other people where you're like, oh, that's really clever. That's really a good way to, what are good ads examples that you can come up with?
So my favorite ad comes from actually an auto dealer where he says, "Hi, we're name of the company." And I'm like, that is insanely brilliant. How many people take the time to greet their prospects on the SERP?
Yeah.
It's so me. It's not, let's say hi.
I love that. Yeah. I think that's really clever.
But in terms of ads, we're talking a lot of text ads.
Yeah.
Another ad idea that I personally have really loved, especially with COVID going around, is not just the even together we're apart, but specifically celebrating heroes. And that virtual consultations are available, and like actually taking the time to modify the messaging so that you're not just running the same ads as you would have run a year ago. You're running ads that speak to the pain points of your prospects in the time that they're in, not just default the same amazing creative that won for you a year ago.
Awesome. And I'd be remiss. I have been careful not to talk too much about COVID on a lot of these videos because I don't know how evergreen that content's going to be. Really, is the main thing. But it's worth talking a little bit because a lot of we work with a lot of small businesses, helping maybe some tips to help them dig out of the hole that they're in. We've gone through this pandemic. Small businesses a lot of them got really hurt by this. How can we use digital marketing, paid search in particular, to help them dig out of the hole they're in?
Sure. So one thing worth keeping an eye on is actually follow Google Ads on Twitter. Google, and to be fair, just check the Google Ads support community. They've been putting out a bunch of resources. I don't know how much folks have been paying attention, but Google actually put a grant out. So long as you've been advertising all of last year and then also January, February, you are eligible for a grant in relation to what you were historically advertising. So they didn't confirm what number that would be per account, but that is a thing that we can do. Another thing that I'll just throw out there, take the stock of how much you're integrating your SEO and your paid efforts. One thing that's really, really impactful for SMBs, in particular local SMBs, of course, is making sure that your GMB is synced and accurate right now, because that actually unlocks an ad format that is far cheaper, the local search ad, and will give you double the real estate on the map pack, the sponsored spot on Google Maps, and again is a lot cheaper if you're so Hennessey Digital, we work with a lot of lawyers. It's a lot cheaper than those call-only ads. So that's definitely something I would consider. I'd also look to, what's it called? I mean, grants for on the different ad networks, of course. But we also can start highlighting virtual consultations, leveraging Zoom, leveraging Facebook Live. How much can you begin to turn your service into a phone conversation or a virtual conversation versus just coming into the office? The other thing that I really, really love is the conversation around the curbside pickup and delivery and how much that's impacting GMB. And then I know Kirk Williams, he is a fantastic voice in e-commerce. He's been speaking a lot about the new e-commerce solution, the kind of free Google Shopping.
Yep.
That's another amazing avenue. So there is hope. As I realize that I'm a bit of a PPC Sith, but there is hope at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, just there's a bunch of us that just make our time available. So I'll give a shout out to my own office hours. I realize this,
Yes.
you want this to be evergreen, but I'm actually till the end of this year, 2020, every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern, I just hold open Zoom hours. So you can just drop in. I'll talk with you about your business, give you advice. I know there's a bunch of
That's so
folks that they're
generous,
doing
yeah.
similar things. So yeah, there's a
That's
bunch of
really,
hope.
really
There's a
nice
lot
of
of
you.
hope.
No, what a great answer. I saved, I think, my two favorite topics for the end here.
Yay, I'm going to take a sip.
So you mentioned, yeah, please. You mentioned collaborations with SEO and PPC. One of them that I could think of that we're probably not doing a good enough job here is in competitor research. You literally have a course on competitor research in SEMrush that I encourage people to check out.
There's another one actually coming out there. So the beginner one just launched. The advanced one
Awesome.
comes out Friday, I think.
Excellent. Congratulations on that. So,
thank you.
So talk about, I guess, ways you can collaborate with SEO teams and pay-per-click teams specifically in competitor research, and then some other ways that you guys collaborate and maybe help us at Search Lab out to get better at this kind of stuff.
Sorry, I'm getting over this horrible cold. So there's a couple of things. One, we on the paid side have something called Auction Insights. Auction Insights gives us the ability to see which competitors are actively targeting either branded terms or general service terms. And we can see how often our brand, the brand that we're serving, is at the top of the page, what impression share they have, what their outranking share, or how often they are beating the given competitor. And we can come up with a hit list of which competitors do we really need to worry about, what messaging do we need to start factoring in. The other thing that we do, and I encourage every agency to do that's integrated, or if you're a brand ambassador, you're serving a brand and you have a PPC and an SEO team, make sure that they're actually sharing their search terms, the search term queries on the paid side to the organic side, and see how often certain competitors are kind of sneaking into those general service terms, and what sort of long tail queries that really will have too low search volume to make sense, but could make for a really good content play. I push that over to the organic side. And on the organic side, if you're really struggling to rank, kick those queries over to the paid team. Like, see if we can help snipe those spots. I really encourage everyone to build at least an hour to 2 hours per month into actually going through your competitors' websites and seeing how well are they addressing the given service, but also by location. Have they done, and I make this point in my course, have they done a really good job once in one location, but have they not extrapolated that out to all the other areas that they serve? Are there areas where they're just not bidding on anything and you can snipe in and grab that traffic, and vice versa? Are there certain areas where organically they're just really struggling and you have an opportunity through your content, through your tech, that you can really win? And also through social, that social could be that play. So just leveraging tools at your disposal, leveraging insights at your disposal, absolutely share those insights. One thing I find SEOs don't know about, which I encourage all of you to do, is actually to get a Google Ads account, do nothing with it, but use it for the ad preview and diagnosis, because that actually lets you view SERPs without creating impressions and clicks.
True.
That will kind of mess with your data, and you can make it match literally anything. And so if you're, as you're looking to build proposals and you can see, hey, a certain competitor is consistently ranking for these sorts of terms on the paid side, organically we're crushing it, there might be a business case, hey, let's do a 10,000 a month test. Or, hey, these terms are really expensive. We're going to have to bring at X, and that might be too much. Let's really buckle down, build content out, and maybe run a display campaign targeting, or a Gmail campaign targeting our competitors. That's actually, all right. So Gmail campaigns get a really bad rap because when they first launched, no one knew what to do with them. But what's fun about them is that you can actually target your competitors, and it will serve your email to people who've expressed interest or who are doing business with your competitors. You click in, that's the click you pay for. So the click-through rate is pretty high. But any action they do after that is free. So whether they forward that to 100 of their friends, whether they go to your site and buy a thing, it's all free. So Gmail campaigns for your competitors.
I like this very much. Yeah, that's great. So I said my two favorite topics because I'm learning a lot about SEO and PPC collaborations, and that was an awesome answer. And then I want to learn more about message mapping, which is something you've spoken about a little bit more. It would help me to just have a definition for this. What does message mapping really mean? And even a crude definition would be great.
Sure. So as I cough, message mapping simply is taking the time to audit what audience group you are serving your messages to, and making sure your message is predisposed to be as successful as possible to that group. So case in point, if I am a woman who is a marketing professional, who also is an avid Star Wars fan, geek, pet mom, I probably don't want AARP stuff sent to me.
Right.
Like that's a thing that to be mindful of. But more subtly, I live in Rhode Island, where it's much easier, say, to adopt a dog in Rhode Island, whereas Massachusetts, it's actually much tougher. So if you're a shelter down south, this is also a very specific example that is entirely pandering to my love of puppies and speaking.
This is a selfish time for you. Go ahead.
All right.
Make it all about you.
So if you're a shelter and you're looking to target, you might still target Massachusetts, but you might go more aggressive and highlight specific dogs available. You might, based off of my past browsing history, see that like I'm interested in certain breeds, and you show me certain breeds. So all of the ad networks have something called in-market, which it means that I have, by the sites I've been to, by the searches I've done, I'm in market for a thing. But there's also porting over analytics audiences. That's my personal favorite, where you actually can customize the ads based off of or whether the person's been to your organic site or not. Whether you can exclude people who've been to your organic site. You can tailor it based off of iPhone versus Android, because the mobile experience happens to be slightly different. So if you're an app and you're only for iPhone, you can serve an ad to the Android user based off of like, don't you wish you had an iPhone?
Right.
Or like just to like download our app. Like when you get an iPhone, like this is a thing. You shouldn't do that, by the way. That's bad business sense. just do it to send your ad to the iPhone folks. But the other thing that goes into message mapping is attribution, because by the very nature of message mapping, you are building in multiple steps to the journey. So a lot of folks, because we're very good at defaulting life, are still on last click. Last click is a problem because it only is going to give you a view into the world of, this was the person who checked the person out, they get credit for the sale, when in fact there was a whole line of people helping the customer along. So if you're going to take the step of message mapping, you absolutely also want to look at your attribution modeling. I love position-based or time decay. Do you mean to define them?
No, I know what those are. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
cool.
fine.
But in terms of those steps, attribution modeling kind of takes a hit if you don't take action. Message mapping is the action to take, that you modify the messages at the different stages of the funnel, that you tailor to the different demographics, that you honor the fact that not everyone who buys from you, even though they all are buying the same thing, are the same persona. Another great voice on this is Amy Bishop. We've spoken about this a lot together. But yeah, message mapping is, when we talk about paid media and a paid media practitioner, a lot of times there's fear about our job security because the machine can do a lot of the things that we can do. Message mapping is still a human creativity task. This is one of those areas where you really own your job security, that you are not only good at the numbers and seeing the story and the data, you can then distill that down into, this is the creative that should go here, this is the creative that should go here, and here's why. So that's message mapping.
Wow. Have you written about message mapping, or do you have any presentations where people could find out more if they want to? Or
so I realized that you didn't want I realized that you didn't come to my office hours. I realized you didn't want me to talk about COVID and date this.
No, please. Yeah.
But what's actually really funny is that was the presentation and all the data sets I had ready to go for this conference season until COVID. So that was the deck. So that's just sitting there ready and waiting for the fall season, because that's when all the shows are coming up. But yeah, check out Amy Bishop, check out my stuff, and we're always happy to help.
Well, that's fantastic. And I before we go, I have a question about your dog's name.
Yes.
What's your dog's name, and how'd you come up with this?
Sure. So and this is not really fair to you, I have two dogs. So the dog that you're the dog that you're talking about is HK47, who assassinates you with love, because HK47 is the adorable assassination droid, very snarky in Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, and to be fair, in the MMO, who is unequivocally one of the best characters in the game. Like, he is just so funny, can absolutely destroy you, but he also just has an amazing outlook on life. And HK as a dog is just, he's so funny. So when we first got him, he tried every which way to off himself. Like, he was jumping off of balconies, turning on gas stoves, pills, impaling himself. So the first month we were like, oh my God, we have cursed this dog by naming him HK47. But now he's mellowed out and he's a super sweet boy. And then our other dog is Freya. So the joke is that HK is a pit bull boxer lab mix. It's a high energy dog. And then Freya is a husky, which in theory would be a high energy dog. Right. But she actually mellowed him out. So I now have them both just lying next to me, just being super cute.
Oh, that's awesome. I wanted two dogs, but then my wife said I would need a new wife if I did that, if I came home with a second one. So I have one dog who is awesome, named Murphy.
What kind of dog?
That's why the company's called Search Lab. It's a Labradoodle. So it was named after my dog. So I'm super in love with dogs, and like so a lot of our charity stuff is Chicago Canine Society and everything else. So
Labradoodle, I wonder if you did a corgi or like a smaller dog, you can get away with a second one. Because there is something to be said for like that pack mentality, that you have two just to keep each other company and be happy. You don't have to be the one giving them all the attention.
Yeah, I don't know. I have 3 kids, the oldest, which is 5. And I live in the city, so we have like 1,250 square feet. So my wife's like, I think there's enough things for her, but I would get another dog. It's up to me. But yeah, well, I would love to meet your dogs next time I'm in Rhode Island, and enjoy the beer. I hope it's good. Like, give me a report if you don't mind. And
this is delicious. And funny story. My neighbor brews beer and mead, and he's actually very, very good. So if you don't mind, not on this because I don't want to have your address publicly listed, but I'm happy to send you some from what he
That is
makes.
so nice of you. Yeah, thank you. I would love that. It's it's easy to find me. So, all right. Well, Navah Hopkins, this is a real treat. I love talking with you.
Same.
I learned a ton here. So let's do it one more time. Cheers. Thanks for coming on
Cheers.
Suds Search. I'll see you next time.